I think you can design something that can work for both parties. But look, at the end of the day, it's all about trust to begin with. It
Mm.
doesn't matter what economy is you're gonna be sharing between two of you or three of you. It's just in the future, right? It's
Mm.
now. It's how to make things work between you and your partner, because you're gonna partner with them for the next 10 years. You're basically
Exactly.
married for the next 10 years, right? And
Yeah.
what do you have? What do you have? All we have is trust.
Hey, it's Sarah. I've been waiting to share some exciting news, and the wait is finally over. As of this month, Billion Dollar Moves is part of the Creators Program at the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. That means we have access to tons of new resources like editors and marketers that help us create high quality episodes and grow a community. We're also in great company with podcasts like one of my favorites, Finding Founders, where host Samuel Donner interviews the world's most prolific thinkers and founders who reveal how their darkest moments inspired their success. Check out Finding Founders and learn more about HubSpot creators at hubspot.com/creators. Welcome to Billion Dollar Moves, the show for the top US and Asia founders, funders, and execs. From the growing pains of a unicorn journey to IPO, to scaling a venture capital firm, and the shift of wealth, we cover it all in the world of venture and business. I'm your host, Sarah Chen-Spellings. Today, I have a good friend with me, a fellow Malaysian who has been making some billion-dollar moves in making Malaysia and the startup scene what it is today. I'm so excited to bring on my friend, JB, as he's known, Jamaludin Bujang. JB, how are you?
Good, thank you. How's it going with you over there in DC? I guess. Yeah.
Yes, yes, things are good. I am starting my day with a conversation with you, so I am
All
in
right.
a good space. I'm in a good space. Always love talking to you. So, JB, really want to get going here with the first order of business as usual in Billion Dollar Moves, which is to really understand your personal journey. You started Malaysian boy, decided to become a sell side analyst, work with investment banks for a while, and then
Mhm.
eventually, led MAVCAP and sort of built the VC space to what it is today in a significant way. Many may not know that. So talk to us a little bit, was this always a childhood dream to be in finance, and was VC something that you knew
Oh,
back then?
okay. Thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much for giving the opportunity to be part of this. Your program. Where do I start? I went to study to the US, in Kansas, of all places.
Yeah.
Have you been to Kansas yourself? You
Not
should.
yet. Yeah, I
Not yet.
should.
You should. Yeah, it's right in the middle, in the Midwest. So I went to Kansas to study actually aeronautical engineering to start with. Um, so I started off with that, but after a while, I found out that I'm not very much inclined to engineering and technical stuff. So
Mm.
halfway through, I switched my course to study business, and I learned so much. And I don't have a background at all in doing business, accounting, economics from there. But I did quite well because I think I enjoyed it so much. I enjoyed the class. I liked the theories and all that. So finally, I went through. So graduated in 1988 from the US. Came back to Malaysia in 1988 and started working since then,
Mm.
89. You asked about whether this all planned or not. Actually, it wasn't planned at all. As a young graduate with economics degree, with bit of knowledge in banking and finance, and I thought, well, yeah, I want to work in a bank, right? And banking was hot back then, right? uh, Maybe you're still too young, but anyway, it's very hard. Yeah, everybody wants to work in
Right.
a bank because good
Yeah.
perks and all that, right? And I didn't really get to work in a bank actually after applying so many times. And uh, about 1 year after that, I saw this advertisement looking for analysts in a stockbroking company. So I said,
Right.
okay, let's give it a try. I never thought of doing analyst. I probably have some background studying finance and all that in school, but let's try being analyst. I applied, and they took me, and I did quite well. I really enjoyed the job. Really, I really enjoyed being analyst, financial analyst, as you said earlier. And in fact, I was doing my job as an analyst lasted for easily like 15 years. You
Wow.
know, yeah. Um, of course, I worked from one place to another, but still doing analyst work. So that's how we started off from school and now become an analyst, and then a bit of background on the how I started off in MAVCAP. Um, I was with investment bank until 2005, and my ex-colleague well joined joined a VC company, which is a subsidiary of Kazana.
Right.
And after he joined, he wants to take new people in. And then one day, he just called him, hey, so look, both of us have been around investment bank for so long. Why don't I've been a plunge, and why don't you do the same thing? Join me and help me do this stuff. And I said, okay, good. It's about time as well. I think after doing the same job for 15 years, interesting, no doubt. I said, yeah, let's take a plunge and join him to work in a VC setup. So I joined him. At first I started off as I'm looking after the corporate services, they call it.
Right.
That looking after the legal, finance, sectorial, whatever, which is non-investment at all. And the reason I want to do that is not because I don't like to do investment, but that's because in the past I've had enough experience in investment. I thought so. I think this is probably time to do something else, right? So it's good. So I was doing that for 3 years, and then the CEO changed, and the new CEO came in and said, "Hey, look, I'm looking for someone to head the investment department. Rather than taking someone new,
Right.
since I know you and you have the background from inside, why don't you just take over?" So I moved to doing investment again in that company. It's called MTDC. So I was doing finance for 3 years, and at the end of 2011, MAVCAP, I got a call from my friend in MAVCAP, and they say, hey, MAVCAP looking for a CEO. We don't have a CEO for the last, like, what, 6 or 7 months, and they're still looking. And they call me, do you know anyone who want to apply for a job? I said, why don't you apply? I said, I never thought I wanted to become a CEO, and never crossed my mind because, I thought I just want to be head of division. That's it. Being CEO is not easy. Like I know that. And I say, no. You just update your resume. Just give it to me. After all, they're looking for at least 3 applications, right? I said, okay, I'll find a favor. I do it to you. So I sent to her. And then not long after that, the board called me up and said, hey, we have a vacancy here. We want to consider you to come in as a CEO. I know the previous CEO. I know him. And he said, we also interviewing other people. We'll debate. I think they take about 2-3 months to decide for me to
Wow.
appoint me as a CEO in MAVCAP. I'm quite familiar with MAVCAP that time, their role, what they do, and all that, because I come from the same line, right? And
Right.
when they offered me a job as a CEO, I said, I was thinking twice because I want to stay on at MTDC because I want to do something else. I want to stay on with that company doing new things. But I guess, I guess fate will have it and say, okay, let's just take a plunge anyway. Let's try again for the second time, right?
Yeah.
So I did it.
So Jamal,
But yeah.
if I may pause you a second, a couple of
Mhm,
things, as you're telling this story. First of
mhm,
all, when you went into corporate services,
mhm,
because you wanted to do something different, some
mhm.
people would view that as, oh, it's corporate services, it's a support role. It's not that
Yeah,
glamorous compared to investing. And you've
right.
been in investing for 15 years. Was there not
Yeah.
that sense of ego that you had to reshift? How did you think about that? Was it sort of you wanted to know the nuts and bolts? What was the thinking there for you to first make that step?
Yeah, good question. Actually, I asked that myself, but I think I can't think of doing investment, and I was asking myself, do you really want to do the investment until the end of until you retire? Why don't you try something new as well? And I thought it's a good idea as well, also because you never know the next time and next stage of your growth. You want to make yourself more well-rounded, right? As you climb the corporate ladder, right? Which I think that was a good decision. So now when I become a CEO of MAVCAP, I know how finance do their work, the problems that's faced by the corporate services, by the corporate com, by all other departments which I used to look after, right? So it really helped me. It really helped me when I became a CEO of MAVCAP. Yeah.
Interesting. And then, going back to your MAVCAP story, you said, I never imagined myself as a CEO. Where does that come from? The fact that you never identified yourself in that leadership position?
No, it's I'm very well aware of the problems that CEO face. I've been like in that company as a number two. Now, of course, there are a few other number twos as well. I'm just one of the number twos there, right? And you can imagine, I can see, I observe, I love to help the CEO doing his job, executing his orders and executing the departmental objectives and all that. But being CEO, it's a totally different game altogether. You are dealing with the shareholders, the board, and in this case, the government officials as well, and so many things. You're not, when I look at that, I said, since I left this job, I as well do this thing rather than dealing with other things which got nothing to do with, real work. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I see it. So that's the reason why I don't want to become a CEO actually to begin with. But as you move one stage to another, there's always a challenge, someone poking you from behind and say, hey, try something new, try it. You never know. So that's what I did.
So what did you learn from your chapter in MAVCAP? I mean, you clearly were doing a good job if you were renewed for a few times. And want to also hear, particularly from the LP perspective, right? Now you decided, okay, let's work with funds, and you actually created co-GP models, i.e. you worked with fund managers as an equal, or depending on the share entity, to help run those funds as well, and be in. For some, you're a quiet investor, so limited partner investor. For some, you took a more active role. Talk to us a little bit about what you learned in that chapter as an LP in building funds in a nascent market.
Yeah. Now you're talking about my contract. Yeah. The funny thing about working for GLC is, the CEO they give you only two-year terms.
Right, so a government-led company. Yeah.
They renew you every 2 years, and that can be negative. If you really think about it, there's no CEO wants to work for 2 years, right? That's because but thank God they renewed. I think in my case 3 times, so I lasted about 7 years in MAVCAP. In fact, I was the longest, compared to the previous 3 CEOs.
Right.
Again, thank you for that, because we managed to execute things that we wanted to do. Now, on the partnership and all that, with LPs, okay, MAVCAP is also, not only we do direct investment back then, we also an LP, also having partnership with all these VCs, right? MAVCAP, if you look at it carefully, it is our role should be an LP to begin with. Our job is actually to grow the industry. We create more VCs, invite them to come over to Malaysia if they haven't come yet. And in so doing, there will be more capital available for the Malaysian market, right? Because no other VCs will do that, right? Whether you're private or government. That's what we should do. I think we've done well in that sense. Now, when we go out and try to work with other VCs, well, there are a few of them. 500 of them. The finance startups, one of them. Of course, Gobi and the Alex Capital and all that. And we expect them to raise money from outside of Malaysia. And like Gobi, for example, they raise money from other sources from China, and Alex Capital, they raise from the US. And 500 also raised from US as well as from Malaysia as well. And those money that they raise from Malaysia are the money that we won't be able to raise it ourselves, even though we're in Malaysia, right? So again, it's good. I think it complements MAVCAP strategy, and we give a lot of freedom to the VCs to manage their own ways of doing business, so long as they comply with certain guidelines of so long as it falls within certain expectation from MAVCAP. It's like certain percentage of investments must be Malaysian companies. You can invest the rest outside Malaysia, because technology is borderless, right? Good companies can start from any country, and they can just come here and become number one, right? So you want to invest that country rather than investing in someone doing the same thing but it's based here, but it's not good enough to compete, right? Again, so that's what happened.
Yeah, so if I may dive a little bit deeper here, you've played quite a significant role in building some of these funds, right? To set up, to understand the market, beyond just capital. I think sometimes you don't give yourself enough credit, but you help to facilitate a lot of these funds in the early days when, frankly, people didn't even know what there was no template to follow. Right, in building like Ziata, Gobi, so on and so forth, to actually decide even Gobi, which is 1.2 billion, and now you're with them, and we'll shift to that a little bit. But they still have a strong headquarters in Malaysia, and are investing into Malaysia years later. So talk to us a little bit about your role as an LP. What have you learned in observing these funds? Like, what were the early mistakes they made? What were the good stuff that they discovered to be able to grow to this stage?
It's funny, if you are local, you are someone here already in this environment, and you've been there for years and years. Sometimes you don't see things the way other people look at things, and this is where all these managers have the advantage over us, right? Gobi before that has done investments in China. They have gone through since 2002, making investments in China, investing exactly the same company that they had in China then here. So they already get that learnings, which they can only import and apply, and they can sort of expect the sort of problems that may arise because that's already happened in China. The same thing with other funds as well. 500 is very good at this. 500 has invested by the time I left. I think they have done about more than 1,000 investments. No, I think more than 1,000 investments already by the time. So imagine all the data or information that they have on founders, on companies, on sectors, whole lot of things which they have, and then you can apply on the Malaysian market, right? So they have a better idea. They have advantage over local managers in picking up companies. So we learn a lot. There's a lot of things that MAVCAP learned from these people, and in fact, that one of the things that we want to make sure that all this transfer of technology and knowledge, or rather, coming to MAVCAP is, we want them to. We do secondment of staff into some of these companies. We still have secondment staff in Gobi from MAVCAP. And sometimes we participate in the IC as non-voting members. We do that. Some voting, some fund is non-voting. So we learn a lot, and we refer deals to them, and we go and screen the deals together with them. We discuss, and they need MAVCAP's expertise as well, because they want to know, hey, have you met this guy before? What do you think? So we can do that, which they don't, right? And so that's, and having MAVCAP as part of the LP, right? It gives them the advantage as well, because now, and the list of LPs in that fund, there's one Malaysian government entity as an LP. So it gives a lot of comfort to other LPs when they put money into the fund. So it's actually very symbiotic relationship. It benefits MAVCAP as well as to the managers. This is a case where 1+1 = 3 or more. Right? It's
Yeah.
not 1+2. So it works. It's been working. So I don't see reason why it shouldn't work at other places as well.
Yeah, and I want to, this angle is interesting because we're working a lot with LPs right now as well, and there's a whole group of emerging managers, right? New GPs that are coming into play, and not many would have the benefit of nascent markets as well. The I'm looking at some saturated, I guess, developed markets now where we may not have the similar government support as Malaysia, Singapore, many other Southeast Asia countries had, right? So what? For the managers that are listening in, new managers, what would you say are the top 3 qualities that you've seen over the years that you've been in business as an LP, picking funds, working with funds, that really stands them out for success?
The managers. First of all, you need the experience, right? I'm just trying to relate what Gobi and 500 has gone through. In their own little ecosystem, they have learned a lot. They've gone through all. They've made mistakes. They have made mistakes. And these are sometimes not small mistakes. Like Gobi, for example, they have been sued few times, and we've won all those. You won all cases according to Tom back in China. So we learn. You must be able to learn, and that is the asset that you have. That if you want to work with potential LPs, and as LPs want to view you as someone who has the experience, right? And you have gone through all that. You understand your certain the expertise that you are good at, a certain vertical. They say you are a GP with strength in e-commerce, for example. Then you should become a master in e-commerce. If you're in an AI, you must be very focused and really understand in AI. Same thing. So LPs can, because they choose many GPs, right? And they will want to pick. They don't want a generalist because they have so many choices of generalists out there, right? And if I'm an LP, I want to choose 10 funds. I want to give one allocation for AI, one allocation for logistics, one allocation for future commerce, so many other things, right? Rather than give it to 10 generalists. So if you're a GP, that you should build expertise within your area that you're very familiar with.
Just a quick note before we get back to the show. While you're listening to this podcast, you're probably doing something else too. Mastering the art of cooking, driving your kids to practice, dancing like no one's watching. We get it. When you're having conversations with your customers, the same is probably true for them. They're IMing their teams, mentally planning date nights, so growing conversations beyond the moment can be challenging. HubSpot helps you go beyond the moment by connecting you and your teams, giving you access to the exact same data and helping you see the full customer picture. What motivates them, what their expectations are, and how you can blow them out of the water. With powerful tools that connect marketing, sales, ops, and service, HubSpot's powerful CRM platform powers you and your teams to transform customer moments into extraordinary customer experiences. Learn how HubSpot can help your business grow better at HubSpot.com. Now back to the show. There's always a question of, is that attributable track record, first of all, and number two is also the fact that some of them may not have had the opportunity, but it doesn't mean that they won't make good fund managers. They just never grew up in a position of privilege where they were able to go to the best schools to then have a friend call them up and say, hey, do you want to be part of the VC? So what do you say to that when it's a situation where you want to give an internship, but you're asking for the job experience first, right? So how do you think about that? And what's your advice to new managers who may not be the cookie cutter candidate?
Yes, that's very true. I think this is a role where you as an LP is has to to what do you call it? you have to adopt it, right? Yeah, I agree with you. You know, not the familiar GP with you're already familiar with, and you want to give them money all the time. You want to develop an ecosystem, right? You should give the opportunity for people who have probably thinner, resumes than the other guys. But you must you do your duty. You find out that this guy has certain traits which uh, which he can execute, and has been proven to execute it when he was in previous company. So yeah, I agree with you. If you're an LP, right, out of 100% I want to give out, maybe you can give 70% or 60% to the normal guys who's with strong track record and all that, and the balance 30 or 40% you should give to new guys, because these guys eventually will become good and they will replace those guys.
So now we go into your Gobi chapter. You spent a couple of years, renewed your term for a couple of times. So it was a total of 7 years in MAVCAP, right? I believe.
Right.
So 15 years in as an analyst, banking, and then went on into working for the government in venture and spurring all these things. And then you joined one of the GPs, the general partners, the fund managers that you actually supported in a private enterprise. So my question to you is, how was that shift of mindset to work from a government hat, semi-quasi-government, right? You still work with outsiders, but very much driven by the government. But then now sort of working with Tom, working with, guys in the private sector that are go, go, go.
Yeah, it's I mean, after MAVCAP, obviously, if you want to, for me, is going back to the private sector. After I left, I come from private sector also to begin with, right?
Right.
I think okay, in Gobi's case, it's quite interesting. It wasn't like totally planned, but the thing is, when I left MAVCAP, and about the same time, Gobi was already considering to invest. I haven't joined Gobi at that time. But I've already, know Tom. He's just one floor up in our building, just one floor up. So we meet every day anyway. When I was in MAVCAP, so, we talk about deals, we talk market and all that. And then one day he said, look, we have this investment in Pakistan we want to invest in. And then he said, maybe you should, why don't you talk to these guys? I haven't joined MAVCAP, Gobi at the time. So happened in that year, in 2018, I think end of 2018, Pakistan was, I think the industry there arranged like a big event for the IT, for the digital stuff. We call O2O. Hey, what's O2O or something like that. And since Gobi wanted to invest in one company there, and they said, hey, there's one event, industry event. Why don't we just go to Karachi? Have you gone to Karachi? I said, no. None of us has gone to Karachi before. Why don't we just go and maybe we get a better feel about Pakistan, about what's going on. And if you read about Pakistan, if you have been to Pakistan, what you read in the news is not really that good, right?
Yeah.
So we went, and we was totally surprised. We were, there hardly any definitely foreign VC. There are only a few local VCs there when we came, and we met that potential company that we invested in. Also, we like this company and all that. But just before we left, when we got there, I bumped into my my classmate, and I met him. Ali, called Ali from Fatima Group. I was with Ali attending a Stanford program for 2 weeks, organized by 500. So we know each other. So I said, hey, now I know Ali is Pakistani. Yeah, you're here. Yeah, I said, what are you doing here? And then he said, I'm doing investment, but I'm using my own money, corporate money, and to do invest. I want to do bigger things. I said, hey, why don't we work together? We want to invest in the company also here. But then again, why don't we work together and set up a fund? Right? I said, yeah, okay, that's good. So a few months after that, he came back. He came to KL and said, we really explored, and then said, hey, I think there's a good chance for us if you want to set up a fund in Pakistan, and he can help us raise money from Pakistan. And we went to Pakistan every regularly after that, raising money, and we managed to get a fund done. So that's how it started, and I joined Gobi after that in May of 2019.
So talk to us a
Yes.
little bit about what does it take for you as a new GP, right? A new partner that, you've known Tom for a while, you've got that
Right.
relationship, and then to start a new partnership. Because partnerships,
Yes.
as you know, in startups, I think we talked about this, the number one reason startups fail is, lack of money, no fit, there's no market, but also a big chunk of it is
Right.
partnerships breaking down.
Yeah.
So when you're
Oh
thinking
yes.
about fund management and working together for a fund, which is at least the life cycle of fund 5 to 10 years, how do you think about that? How do you think about working with someone that actually you only met through a course, but it wasn't like your lifetime friend? How do you think about that?
Yeah, it's funny. It's a good thing you asked that as well, because I think the shortest answer to that is chemistry. Um, and of course, there's other elements that help as well. Ali is, to begin with, he's young. He's less than 30 years old. And he's eager. He comes from a family who has done all this. All his brothers are looking after certain things in Fatma Group, and then he's trying to carve himself out. I want to focus on doing investments. In fact, he already made a few investments. Alif is one of the first investment that he made, actually. Very small investment, and but he doesn't have a big brother to help him.
Got it.
And here we come, and then because the chemistry works so well between him and us, there's a complete trust, between him and us. For that, I'm thankful to God. I think we found a good partner. He treats us as a equal partner, really. Whatever economics that we get from this fund, we split equally. That's how we started off. I think he's very happy with that, and he knows that we trust him as well. He, and we have people like Tom, who's you can easily mix with, and Tom works well with him as well. So, and I got Tariq, my colleague. He clicks very well with Ali as well. He comes from Pakistan descends as well. So, the chemistry is all there. I think we're just lucky. To have a partnership that has a lot of common ingredients to help support that partnership. We're just lucky.
So Jamal, you are always so modest. Sure, there's an element of luck, but I personally believe you set yourself up to be lucky, right? Like there's a lot of things that you've done. The fact that you went to Pakistan and made an effort and also went to Stanford and all, you sort of set yourself up for luck in a certain way. So I want to hear from you, as you, hindsight's 2020, as you look at that partnership with Fatima, how did you build that up for success? Was there a clear discussion from day one, because a lot of fund managers actually tune into this and we want to know, when we work with partners, co-founders, how do you think about this? How do we think about building a fund up for success? Is it one that does, on the ground because he's there and you support the franchise through other resources? How do you think about that split?
It's I think you can design something that can work for both parties. But look, at the end of the day, it's all about trust to begin with. It doesn't matter what economics you're gonna be sharing between two of you or three of you. It's just in the future, right? It's now. It's how to make things work between you and your partner, because you're gonna partner with them for the next 10 years. You're basically married for the next 10 years, right? And what do you have? What do you have? All you have is trust. That's it, and he should be doing something that you want to do, but he has also expect you to do something that he wants as well, right? So there must be a constant engagement between the two parties. This, like I said, I think chemistry plays a big role in it. You don't want to have a relationship is guided by just black and white agreement. You can do this. No agreement can cover all this requirement that you want and match with what he wants. Seriously, you know.
That's a good point.
Again, so you really have to, sometimes you have to trust your luck. I think, as you said I'm modest, but I think I believe that someone up there has planned things for some. I'm sure it planned for everyone, right?
Yeah,
Just
right.
that you make it happen. You work on it and try to make it happen. One interesting thing though, talking about luck, I wouldn't say luck is a word, but like I said, I think it's been designed. You know, how I went to 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 Stanford and met Ali, and now we are. Actually, there's the story behind it as well. Um, when I was in
Go.
MAVCAP, right?
Yeah.
When I was in MAVCAP, right? And this is even before I joined MAVCAP. No, I told you earlier that MAVCAP has two programs for this funded local GPs, right? And one
Right.
of the GPs is called TIC Capital, right? And this even before I joined, right? And TIC Capital, among the companies that they invested, is a company that Kylie set up, right? And Kylie was young.
Yeah.
Kylie set up that, and he got invested by TIC. Now, and by the time I joined, TIC has just, I think they already exited Kylie's company, and Kylie was after exiting. Of course, he has some money and time and all that to do things that he wants to do, and he got hooked to 500 ecosystem, and he did very well. In fact, not long after that, he became a partner, right, of 500 funded startup. And because it's from Malaysia, and Dave said, hey, look, Malaysia is a good market. Why don't you go and set up a fund and go and raise money from there? And I first met Kylie after I joined. That was in 2012, I think. We were sitting, in the same panel, and was sitting next to me. Kylie, right? He's bubbly and
Yeah.
all that. And I just joined a totally new, and wow, this guy, like, man, this guy's so charged. Nice to have him, right?
Yeah.
And then not long after that, he came to my office and said, hey, I met you last time. Remember, I want to come see you, and I got this fund that I want to set up. And so I said, I come to our office, and they said, okay, I want to set up a fund. Have we got some people committed to this fund? And then I said, why don't MAVCAP put money into this? So, and I kind of like the idea. We don't put a lot of money into his fund anyway, but we are one of the biggest seeder for that fund. It's called Durian One. That's how it started, and he managed to set up a fund, and then we continued to invest in other fund, Durian 2 and other things, and he's done well. Now, and then when that Stanford thing came, that was a 500 startups program, and they said, hey, look, why don't you get all people to participate? And the Kali said, hey, get JB to come and participate. I was quite hesitant to begin with, because I have to be in the US for 2 weeks. Going back to study. Going 2 weeks is okay, but going back, in the classroom and study.
Yeah.
Right? And like I said, look, you meet a lot of people, these are interesting people and all that. So, okay, then I go. And that's why I meet at the end, now, and the rest is, of course, history,
Yeah.
Just talking about the power of chance and, I don't know, luck, I don't know what. This been designed by someone above. That thing plays a role as well.
Yeah, of course. So now going into, I don't know where to go from there, but really you want to hear, so let's talk about, this is powerful. No, this is very important. Let's talk about Malaysia. So you helped Kylie, right? Since we're on that topic, when it was very nascent, and I saw you you presented recently about just the state of Malaysia, something like 80 million invested last year. And, Southeast Asia is on the rise now. So Malaysia has certainly benefited from that as well. How have you seen the landscape evolve over the years, with startups that are growing? What are we seeing here in Malaysia, and what can we be excited by?
I think when you look at Malaysia, I think we should look at Southeast Asia as a bigger market, right? We're talking about Southeast Asia here, right? 600 million people. I mean, everyone knows that. There's about 10% of the world's population. We have rising middle class. You're one of them. I'm one of them. And over the years, we've seen things has improved a lot within these ASEAN countries. Malaysia, definitely. Poverty rate is dropped a lot. Consumer market is big. people highly literate and stuff like that. So all these ingredients has been around for quite a while, since in Malaysia's case, since this started to go up since in the 70s, right?
Right.
Now, Malaysia alone, if you think about it, the best thing about Malaysia is, we have a very pro-business policy from day one, right? And then we have a VC, helping the private sector, small, medium scale industries for the longest time, as you can recall, right? And this is where VC came in. VC came to Malaysia back in the mid-80s. I was still studying at that time. There's one of few guys. There are a few guys who set up a VC fund. Private sector is not launched by the government. But by early 1990s, the government already started thinking of, let's set up a VC industry. And that's when NTDC came into the picture. NTDC started off in the early 90s, and they're still around. And after MAVCAP in 2001, they pour money into all these companies, and we can see the product. We can see the companies. We can see a lot of new startups that coming from all that program, right? Yeah. So it is a best place. I think a lot of people from outside, if you're coming into Malaysia, right, they see Malaysia as a best test bed for testing products, because hey, we have, we are multiracial, multi-religious, politically very stable. You can test your product and services, and it's a gateway to Indonesia, which is a big market, right? Again, we have all that ingredients. Yeah.
So a few things. Are we politically stable now?
Well, I would, I think we have no choice. Eventually, there's no such thing as, when there's a vacuum, you get filled in so fast after that, right? Things will correct itself in one way or another. You're right.
Okay.
And if you want to give a probability whether it's gonna change for the better or for the worse, I think people here are smart enough to know that let's change for the better, right? We are not. I think politically, if you talk about politically, right, we are not in some of the countries. We have a very strong I don't know. I don't know what the test word. Military driven, influences and all that. We are pretty civil when it comes to that, right? Yeah, I think things will correct itself. There's a lot of smart people. The young generation, they are smart. Of course, they need to be guided, definitely. Yeah, but we have seen success cases everywhere. Of course, now at this point in time, we are somewhere in between. Hey, let's do this. Everyone is aware now. There's a lot of political interest to be served before, But I'm still confident. Things will, will be for the better. Seriously.
So you're an optimist for sure, and you've ridden this wave, different waves throughout the years. So I see that. But what would you say to external parties, right? You work with, your role in MAVCAP was to bring external capital as they're looking in, as you said earlier in the conversation, when you're in it, you don't see it. But for people looking in from the outside, it does cause us to pause a little bit, in terms of, is this really a time to further invest into Malaysia at this time? What do you say to that?
Yeah, so, I think for people, for investors outside coming in, right? I'm sure you and I, we have gone through this as well. The things that you read about the country or news from that country, if you're from the outside, actually, if you don't go to that place, it's actually different when you get there. Exactly my experience with Pakistan. Before, Tom, his wife was asking when the first time when we go there back in 2018. And his wife asked me, you really want to go there, and Pakistan don't have a good relationship with Chinese people, right? Really. His wife told me, we better not go, let those guys go, right? No, by the way, we on the ground, it's totally different. The same thing. It's the same thing here in Malaysia. So anyone can say anything and report things which is not as balanced as we wanted, but until you come here and look and feel, you don't have the full picture of what the country is, it's what it is, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah.
I definitely agree that you have to,
Mm.
boots on the ground to really see it for what
Yeah.
it is, right? And
Yes.
independence of media is something that's so important that unfortunately today
Yes.
we struggle with a lot. So
Yes.
then, to your pro business point, I had
Hmm.
Aerodyne, as you know, Camaro and Azita were kind enough to spend
Oh
their
yeah.
time and
Yeah.
shared some really powerful insights. But what they actually shared, one of the things they said was in the beginning, they
Yeah.
had to, it was a little bit rough for them in Malaysia, and they
Oh
said they had
yes.
to go outside,
Hmm.
work in Australia, get these contracts that prove their validity and credibility to then come back into Malaysia. What do you
Yeah.
say to that if you say we're pro business?
Yeah, it happens all the time. It happens all the time. It's not just their case. There are many other cases where company come out with a product and they try to sell it to government. We invested in some of those companies, right? And we've gone through that. It is. I think there's a lot of people who make decision at the corporate or at the GLC level.
Mm,
They are not into they're not so much on the ground. Number one, I think. Number two is because I think they they they're not brave enough to make this to take risk, right?
mm,
You can evaluate the product. Of course, they can be less features, less stuff, and of course cheaper, right? Compared to
yeah,
imported products. Imported products has a track record, a lot of things that come with it, but local product could be just as good, right? They
exactly.
just didn't have the time frame to prove it to you that they will do well. But I think a lot of people who make that decision not to buy local products is simply because they are not brave enough to I mean to test or they don't want to make mistake. The problem about top management here is
Mm,
like if a CEO makes a mistake, he could lose his job. I told you my contract is 2 years renewable, right? And I
yeah,
cannot afford to make mistake, one mistake, and next contract I'm out. You know,
mm,
again, the CEOs are not given enough, what do you call it, confidence for him to even take higher risk. So because
yeah.
of that, a lot of companies will come to play safe. CEO, even board level as well, for that matter, they're not willing to make mistakes. They just go with the
Yeah.
flow. They just with what has been proven in the past and repeat that again. Why try something new? Let other people try something new,
Oh,
right?
Jamal, I so appreciate you saying that. And, my question then is what's actionable about this, right? How do we change? Because this is the problem of large corporates, right? Let's not just say it's a Malaysia
True.
problem. Sure, it is a Malaysia problem, but it is corporates, right? Because your
Yes.
incentives as a senior executive may not
Hmm.
necessarily, well, in a lot of companies, it mean things are changing now, but it may not be tied to you taking risk. You're in fact
Yes.
incentivized to maintain
Hmm.
status quo. And I reflect
Hmm.
on some of my experiences in working for a
Exactly.
conglomerate where people have been there for so long
Yes.
because they've been just tagging along. They were
Yeah.
not dangerous for the company, they were not
Yes.
challenging this and disrupting, but then disruption doesn't happen. So how do we
Yes.
change this? What's your message to senior management that are leading in
Yeah.
these sort of companies now?
I've been talking about this even when I was still in MAVCAP. I think the first thing that the need to do is first the board. You probably have to get a board members who can understand, who's willing to take risks themselves, right?
Mm,
Number one. Number two is even if you're not play safe, right? You can always create a new unit, which give a lot of independence that you need to explore new things. And you must understand that you can lose money,
yeah.
but you can always learn from that mistakes all the time. I mean, corporate can afford to do that, right?
Mm,
But unfortunately, some corporate don't take that view. Failure is a failure, and I got to protect my job because I cannot make mistake. And if I want to do something new, get other guys to do it. Um, I think that's what happened.
mm. So you
You
have to
know,
change the incentive structure. How do you design this to how do you design to encourage actual innovation from within your company?
maybe I don't know. Maybe as at the top, like the company, the board can say that, okay, look, this is this your CEO. You want to do this, deliver this, right? But give him a space for him to try something new. He is totally. He should be spend more time and the right people in the right team to do these new things, right? And then at the board level, your valuation on him is not because of his failure in that new thing that he wants to do, right? He should be valued first on what he has delivered in the beginning. You shouldn't penalize him for making a mistake in these new ventures that he is doing, because otherwise he himself is not gonna take the risk.
Yeah.
Right. So he should be allowed to explore, and think about taking risks is there are two outcomes, right? You can fail, but at the same time you can make it. Right. I don't know why people keep focusing on you'll fail because something new and all that, that guy has done it and he lost money. That doesn't mean that it will happen to you, right? If you got the right people, you got the right strategy, right? Go ahead, do it.
Well, I've pushed you a lot, Jamal, and this has been fantastic. I mean, we went to directions that I didn't even expect, but I love it about luck. And no, but these are the actual learnings that matter, right? People, when you think about it, you need to be conscious about all these little things that add up into your life is a sum of all your experiences. As Steve Jobs says, the dots connect looking back. So just that's exactly what you did.
Exactly.
Right there.
Exactly. Yeah. I believe in that.
So final segment, $1 billion questions, 8 quick questions and your quick responses. Okay. What is your highest high, JB?
I think the highest high would be setting up the Axiata fund when I was in MAVCAP, because we have never done that even before. Taking money from the private sector for the first time, and we put our own money and we get a partner to co-manage that fund. That was the first time ever we did as a company in MAVCAP. And of course, the second one is Pakistan. I told you about the story about meeting Ali, and then. Now the Pakistan fund, we managed to probably raise 30 million. So again, those are the two highest point I would say from me.
Who do you think of and why?
I can only relate from people in my industry. I think Patrick Grove is one of them, definitely. I was in the investment bank last time, right? Back in mid 2000s, our investment banker friends, and they say, I remember Patrick went to see him and to try to raise money and all that. Patrick that time was really young, a young guy, spunky guy, wants to raise money, want to do big things, digital, right? And my friend was laughing at him. What is this guy? I'm not gonna give him money, I will never believe his business model. Look, 15 years after that, Patrick is what he is now. So I met that guy. He told me that, I think we made a mistake for not funding him. So Patrick is one of them. Of course, Tom is another guy. The best thing about Tom is because he has the best of both worlds. Born in the US, work in China, and now here in South Asia. So he can marry the experience and also looking at Asia from the Western perspective as well, right? Which is good. And I think he's been very successful in doing that. He's been around for 6 years here, and I hope he will continue to be here, doing stuff, interesting thing. I think those are two.
So it's your definition. I mean, the way you frame it, the definition of success, it's very much tied to business success. Is that your definition of success?
Well, professionally, of course, that. I think the thing that you want to measure is the impact that these people bring. Those, Tom, Patrick, these are just people. But what you want to know is what they have delivered, and that really make a real change, right? That's the point. Yeah.
Yeah, love it. Common misconceptions about JB.
I don't know what is misconception. I didn't check. I didn't check with people.
I'll check with them after this.
I didn't check with people, but I think me as a person, probably a lot of people see me as probably less diplomatic or less tech, when I deal with some people. I tend to I I think that's the in some cases. I won't say in all cases. Yeah, but I'm not like that. I probably not good at going around and explain things. I don't want to waste my time delivering the point, so I just tell him straight. That's what it is, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's what I think people think. But
All right. Most important or hardest lesson that you've had to learn as a leader?
um, you know, you as a leader in the corporate and all that, right? Especially here in this country or in this culture, right? When the boss says something, your underlings will take it as it is, right? But at the same time, you must understand the bosses also want to hear from people around him, from your
Mm.
subordinate, right? Um, and that is actually not always the case. So as a boss, you must be able to listen and encourage people to give input, and
Mm.
you must be able to listen to them well, and don't just don't take that suggestion as it's not going to work and all that. Maybe there's some points in it that you have to consider. So I think as a boss or as people hire you, you must be able to really listen and process and evaluate from
Yeah.
your people under you. Yeah. Yeah.
Favorite tool or hack for productivity?
I like exercising. I do cycle a lot. I try to cycle a lot if I can, as much as I can actually, especially.
I don't know what you're
I
talking
used to.
about. You're like a cyclist. You are a cyclist. That's your full-time job. You're just a part-time VC.
I wish I can do more than that. Seriously. I used
Yeah.
to play badminton a lot before this, but
Mm.
it's very strenuous. So I think cycling is probably the best. I cannot swim. I hate swimming. I hate jogging. So I don't have
Yeah.
that much choice actually. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and that keeps you fresh. You feel like it keeps you productive?
Oh yeah, the best thing about it is that when you're on a bicycle, right, on the saddle,
Mm.
and you have that 45 minutes on 1 hour all by yourself, right? Especially when you cycle alone, and this where you can do a lot of thinking while you're cycling, consider things, and you have 1 hour all by yourself to do
Yeah.
to do things which you don't have time in a team sport. You probably don't have that chance at all, right?
Yeah.
In cycling you can.
My next question, which is what are the three principles that you want your children to continue
Mhm.
to have in their life as a priority in their life?
Yeah, obviously the things I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
I think since you want to know about children kids and all that, right? What makes you as a complete person, uh, or wise at any age of time, any age, right, is ability for you to understand the surrounding, what's happening now, but at the same time you also understand what has happened in the past, even when you were not around, right? I
Mm.
think this is where your kids has to really explore and learn, because people say this all the time: if you don't learn from history, you're going to repeat it again, right? And I've lived. I'm 56 years old now. By the way, I'm the oldest in Gobi. I just found
Are
out
you?
about it. My son is even younger than yeah, you know. So yeah, you must understand history, because a lot of things is happening now, whether you like it or not. It's actually because of certain things that uh, 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 was caused by misunderstanding. People don't understand why things happen in the first place. If you understand the cause or what make that happen, then you can understand why this thing happened, and you'll know how to deal with it, right? So
Mm.
I think for young people, these are the things that they really need to what um, to know and learn history. I
Yeah.
think schools should make history as among the most important subjects. Like in our case here, history is not like, you learn history, but it's not counted as the core. You can just pass without. But
Mm.
I think history is very important. It's
Yeah.
very important.
And now we have the benefit of multiple sources as well, right? To learn
Oh
and
yes, Yeah.
to view the past interpretations. Wow, I love that, JB. I mean, it's so powerful, and that's actually something unique that's never been said before. By really understanding the past before you, because a lot of what you're living with is because of past
Mhm.
decisions, right? And that's why really,
Exactly.
I love speaking to
Yeah.
people who've been
Mhm.
on the ground, who've done things, because this is where the lessons come through, right? Because again,
Yes.
VC is not new. It's been around for years. Fund
Yeah.
managers are not new. Investing is not new, but
Mhm.
we're making some
Mhm.
of the same mistakes because we didn't learn.
Yeah.
Well, JB, thank you so much. This is a wonderful way to end, and what a powerful message here for all of us. We talked so much about innovation, we talked about purpose, we talked about luck, which is very important, and,
Oh
and
yeah,
setting
very
yourself up
important.
for that. That's a very important learning. And I so appreciate
Yeah.
your time, your leadership, and everything that you've done for Malaysia and continue to do for Southeast Asia. Thank you so much.
Thank you to you for having me here as well. Yeah, let's do the most. You interview more people, and we can learn from them as well. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And thanks so much for tuning in this week. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and follow our socials on Sarah Chen Global to get the latest on the show. It would really help me out too if you enjoyed this to rate and review our show on Apple Podcasts and share your favorite episodes with a friend. I'm Sarah Chen-Spellings, and you've been listening to $1 Billion Moves.